Even the most imposing, colossal ancient monuments will eventually crumble into sand. Physical empires are strictly bound by time. To understand how ancient prophecy addresses this decay, we are going to conduct a formal, step-by-step exegesis of Isaiah chapter 51, focusing specifically on verses 1 through 11. This text operates as a precise prophetic timeline. It charts the historical trajectory of the Jewish people, moving systematically from their return out of Babylonian exile to the Roman occupation of Judea. A clear, underlying tension firmly anchors this passage. Isaiah establishes that all earthly empires, no matter their military or economic strength, face inevitable temporal decay. Against that inevitable collapse, the text introduces the eternal, immutable permanence of divine salvation. Isaiah's prophecy functions as a recurring cosmological pattern of physical and spiritual deliverance that transcends any single historical era. The text begins by demanding the reader's attention to their own origins. In Isaiah 51, verses 1 and 2, the prophet commands, "Hearken to me, ye that follow after righteousness. Look unto the rock whence ye are hewn, and to the hole of the pit whence ye are digged. Look unto Abraham your father, and unto Sarah that bare you, for I called him alone, and blessed him, and increased him." This directs the exiled Jews to remember how God built their nation from a single individual. The symbolic imagery here is highly specific. The rock points directly to Abraham, while the pit identifies Sarah. Looking at these crumbled brick structures, we see the remnants of the Babylonian landscape where the Jews were held in exile. The historical logic is straightforward. God took Abraham from a humble origin to build a massive population. Consequently, he possesses the exact same power to bless and multiply a feeble remnant of Jews returning from this exile, starting in 538 BC. Isaiah 51, verse 3 continues, "For the Lord shall comfort Zion, he will comfort all her waste places, and he will make her wilderness like Eden, and her desert like the garden of the Lord. Joy and gladness shall be found therein, thanksgiving and the voice of melody." Here, the text promises a profound geographical healing. This points directly to the physical restoration of the land after the post-538 BC return. The landscape itself would be transformed back into an Eden state, bringing immediate comfort to the returning captives. The ancient Abrahamic covenant serves as the direct theological proof of concept for the deliverance from Babylon. This timeline shows a deliberate jump from the physical deliverance of the Babylonian exile in 538 BC across to the spiritual deliverance required in the meridian of time, around 30 AD. Verses 4 and 5 dictate this transition. "Hearken unto me, my people, for a law shall proceed from me, and I will make my judgment to rest for a light of the people. My righteousness is near, my salvation is gone forth." The text expands its scope from a localized return to a universal mission. As the historical marker at 30 AD divides, we see the focus shift to include both Jewish and Gentile populations. The law proceeding from the Lord defines the newly established gospel, replacing the older Mosaic structures. The light resting upon the people signifies Christ's physical ministry and resulting atonement, a mission that brings both ultimate accountability and divine judgment to those who previously sat in darkness. Verse 6 reinforces this eternal scale. "Lift up your eyes to the heavens, and look upon the earth beneath. For the heavens shall vanish away like smoke, and the earth shall wax old like a garment. But my salvation shall be forever, and my righteousness shall not be abolished." The physical heavens and earth will eventually deteriorate and vanish. However, the spiritual salvation established through the atonement by 34 AD is entirely immutable. Leaving Babylon restored the land, but physical deliverances are temporary scaffolding. A permanent solution requires an eternal, non-temporal shift. Enduring the persecution of the coming centuries required internal spiritual strength. In verses 7 and 8, the Lord addresses these believers directly. "Hearken unto me, ye that know righteousness, the people in whose heart is my law. Fear ye not the reproach of men. For the moth shall eat them up like a garment, and the worm shall eat them like wool. but my righteousness shall be forever. Identifying the people in whose heart is my law means describing individuals who have experienced a mighty change of heart. They do not merely study gospel principles. The law has become their very nature. The imagery of a moth eating a garment signifies the inevitable judgment and decay of those who persecute these righteous individuals. The time for the oppressors to honor themselves is brief. Temporal oppressors are granted a specific window to repent, but they will ultimately face strict judgment, whether in this life or the next. The physical threats imposed by these oppressors are fleeting and highly susceptible to decay, contrasting sharply against the generational endurance of divine righteousness. Isaiah 51 verse 9 reads, "Awake, awake, put on strength, O arm of the Lord, awake, as in the ancient days. Art thou not it that hath cut Rahab and wounded the dragon?" Here the prophet links two distinct historical events. The phrase "cut Rahab" directly refers to the ancient reduction of Egypt's military and political power by the Lord. The companion phrase, "wounded the dragon," maps precisely to the events spanning 40 to 70 AD. This stone relief provides visual evidence of the physical Roman occupation that culminated in the destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD. The Roman Empire functioned as the physical beast, supported entirely by Satan's spiritual kingdom. Christ's atonement inflicted a deadly wound upon that spiritual hold, fracturing its absolute power over the earth. Verses 10 and 11 ask, "Art thou not it which hath dried the sea, the waters of the great deep? Therefore the redeemed of the Lord shall return, and come with singing unto Zion, and everlasting joy shall be upon their head." Just as these massive waves part to clear a path, the ancient miracle of the Red Sea serves as the archetype for future salvation. Passing over the Red Sea represents a continuous, promised return for the redeemed across three distinct eras: the 538 BC return from Babylon, the spiritual salvation in the meridian of time, and a final gathering in the latter days. The divine mechanics of deliverance remain identical. The source of the rescue does not change, whether Israel is facing the chariots of Egypt, the exile of Babylon, the swords of Rome, or the spiritual exile of the modern world. The text of Isaiah is highly systematic. Verses 1 through 11 trace a complete historical trajectory. The prophecy moves from the solitary origins of Abraham through the physical return from Babylonian captivity and directly into the spiritual conflicts surrounding the Roman occupation. Throughout this timeline, a central theological truth emerges. All earthly oppressors and their physical landscapes are entirely subject to decay and vanishing. True deliverance relies on the realization that the salvation established in the meridian of time will endure forever, outlasting any temporal empire. This concludes our overview.